everyone, this is Brent. Welcome to the Loveworks Dreamers and Doers podcast number 110. At Loveworks, we believe you are never too young to be a dreamer and never too old to do your dream. If this is your first time, thank you for joining us and giving us the thing that means the most to you, your time. If you're returning, welcome back. We know you have lots of options out there in the podcast universe.
Yes, and our hope with the Dreamers and Doers podcast is that each week our special guests will connect with you wherever you find yourself today, and they're going to inspire you to become the best version of yourself for tomorrow.
Now, at Loveworks, we believe that one of the ways you can become one of the best versions of yourself is to focus on personal growth. We love curating resources like the ones that can influence your mindset, book suggestions, new music to check out, organizations making a positive contribution, movies that will inspire you, influencers, blogs, resources that have encouraged your personal growth. And today, Carolyn, we are going to share about a childhood hero that still inspires us today. Who do you have, Carolyn? Who is it in your childhood that really made that impact on you that you still feel today?
Tony the Tiger and his amazing cereal. No, I'm kidding. It's not. I was like, I'm sure that fortified my bones. But Tony the Tiger was not my childhood hero. But it's actually from one of the first programs that I watched growing up, which was Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And so Fred Rogers is someone that still inspires me to this day in the life that he led. And so what's really neat, a little backstory about why Fred Rogers even started his TV program was because he didn't actually like any of the other children's programming that was available at the time. It was all kind of, according to him, all kind of slapstick, nothing that was really intentional as far as children's programming goes. And so he decided to create his own TV show about this, and wanting to make it very real and to make it feel like, hey, he is your neighbor. And so I really love that aspect of it. And he definitely left a legacy. And something that people saw in Fred Rogers was that he was incredibly kind to the point where people kind of started to suspect maybe he's not the nicest person, maybe off of the screen, right? Like maybe this isn't as real. Maybe this is a facade of some sort. And so there was actually a journalist, Tom Junid, who began kind of some sort of a mission to, in a sense, almost like, hey, can we expose Fred Rogers? And so started spending time with him, doing interviews with him, and slowly started to realize this man is the same person on screen and the way that he presents himself as he is in real life as well. And so what he preaches, he actually lives out. And so that's something that really encourages and inspires me to this day, is that Fred Rogers was a consistent person, and who he said he was, he actually was. And that definitely is something that sticks out to me. But I'll share one little quote from him because he's all about helpers. One of his most famous quotes is about looking for the helpers, but this one's a little different. He says, all of us at some time or other need help. Whether we're giving or receiving help, each one of us has something valuable to bring to this world. That's one of the things that connects us as neighbors. In our own way, each of us is a giver and a receiver. And so I love just that sentiment, and that thought is that every single one of us has something that's valuable that we can give to the world. And so what an encourager. Fred Rogers is someone that, like, hopefully, I'm not trying to be him, but hopefully leave maybe an impact and an influence on my students in a way that he's left for me.
Wow, Carolyn. Well, that was way more high-minded than probably mine, but
I doubt it, Brent.
I read a lot. I read a lot of comic books when I was a kid, and I was into Superman and Batman and Spider-Man, and mainly the DC ones. But I didn't quite get into Marvel the way that everyone is now. Although I like Marvel too. But honestly, my hero was actually a real person. When I was really little, I saw this documentary about the moon landings, the Apollo moon missions. And I just became a space geek from watching that documentary, and still am to this day, by the way. But I was so entranced with Neil Armstrong. And there was one part of the documentary that really just hit me. And so Neil Armstrong, they're in the lunar lander, and this is the very first mission to the moon, right? When they're going to land, right? And they're coming in to land, and the little dinky computer back in the 60s, that they had on the rover, the lander that was coming in, it couldn't keep up with the calculations. It was having trouble keeping up, and it malfunctioned. And the computer was supposed to automatically land the ship on the surface of the moon. And now the computer is not working. And so mission control, they got these red lights beeping, and they're like, okay, we just need to abort. We need to pull back up and go, we're not going to do it this time. And Neil Armstrong is like, nope, I'm taking it manual. And he takes the controller and he manually lands the lander on the moon. And when they landed, they didn't have a drop of fuel left. Like, they used it down to the last drop of fuel, but he did it. He's like, well, I don't have that resource now, so I'm going to take what I got, and I'm going to do it anyway, And so he landed the rover, and I was like, wow, that's hero material. It's like you get all of your resources taken away and you still figure it out, how to make this thing happen. And then it locked in when I saw Star Wars and realized that Luke Skywalker did exactly the same thing when he tried to blow up the Death Star. And it's like, use the Force, Luke. And he took off the computer that he was going to use, the targeting computer, and he did it all just, with this mental, I guess the Force is what they were using. And so I don't have a nice quote from Mr. Rogers, but use the Force, Luke. I think is a pretty good quote, for people to live by, that, when you don't have all the things you think you need to be successful, you can still reach deep and find resources within yourself to pull through sometimes. So Neil Armstrong and vicariously Skywalker, baby.
A little vicariously. Well, anyhow, students, hopefully that encourages you to think about maybe who's influencing you right now, right? So even with the media that you're taking in, who you're watching, who you're listening to, and hopefully finding someone that encourages you and inspires you as well.
All right, well, Dreamers and Doers, here's the format for our show. We're going to hear an interview where a guest shares their dream and the steps that they've taken to reach their dream. We hope after hearing their story, you will think of yourself that if he or she can do it, so can I. The place where you are today to where you want to go tomorrow. So let's meet our dreamer and doer all the way from Great Britain, Max.
From 1996 to 2018, Max negotiated and signed over 1,000 contracts in the genres of music, film, TV, brands, art, photography, football, video games, and anime, working as a licensee with all the major and most of the minor licensors and agents for UK, European, and global deals across multiple products. By 2018, his contact list was so extensive it made sense to form an agency. Reams Borco is now the little agency that can, and a boutique agency that brings a passion for pop culture backed by the experience and strong relationships across the whole of the licensing industry. Much like the Big Bang, the pop culture explosion seems to only be expanding further and further into even more distant corners, helping the kind of properties and fandom that was once deemed underground pitch new flags in the mainstream channel and find new ways to engage audiences in the world over. Hi, Max.
Hey, Carolyn. Hey, Brent. How you doing?
Good. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Lovely to be here. What do you want to know? What can I tell you?
So Max, this is wonderful. Let's just jump right into it. So this is called the Dreamers and Doers podcast. And so we know you're a dreamer, but we also know that you're a doer and you've accomplished much. But which one comes more naturally to you?
I don't know. I don't think of myself as either a dreamer or a doer. Particularly, I guess I did. I guess I am a dreamer and a doer. I don't know. It's not something that I think about in my mind. I just wanted to do this. I wanted to leave where I was. It took me a long time to realize that I could. And when I had the opportunity to do so, I did. As you mentioned previously, I had extensive contacts in the world of licensing, working with pretty much everybody that I needed to know. And I was able to carve out a niche for myself with this company. Something else that you mentioned, if somebody else can do it, so can I. And that's exactly what I thought, because I looked at people who were agents around me and I thought, if they can do it, I can do it, And I've been very fortunate in that, you mentioned anime. I know a lot of the anime houses. Hardly anybody else is doing anime in terms of merchandise in the UK. So it was an opportunity for me. I'm not an expert in anime, but in the land of the blind, one-eyed man is king. So nobody else really knows much about anime in sort of merchandising. And that's to my advantage because I know a little bit more than they do. And that's enough make me look like an expert and an authority. And I've got some good contacts. Brent, when we started working together, we were able to work on Hatsune Miku. It's been a great license. The Wristworld product is phenomenal. I've really enjoyed the journey, seeing your students bring this to market. And the guys behind Miku, Krypton, based in Japan, they're really easy to work with. I love working with them, and they're very amenable and very flexible and very quick to respond. And it's a small license, it's a small property. It's not as big as, say, Dragon Ball or some of those other properties, but I know that it's a powerhouse in terms of what it can do in the marketplace, how it can work, how it can sell, how successful it can be. I know that the fans are out there, and I know how to marry the IP with the licensee that's making whatever they're making, be it a t-shirt, be it a chocolate bar, be it a mobile game that you wear on your wrist. I know that it's going to work, and I know both people on both sides. I know the licensees on one side making the product, I know the owners, the creators on the other side, and I put the two together and it works. So nobody else has got really got anime in the UK, and anime is not something that I want to always do, but right now it's having a moment in the sun. So I've been very fortunate to export some great anime properties, and we're having a lot of success in multiple markets across multiple categories. But I'm also doing design. I've got a couple of films. I've got some comics that are going to be films. It's an opportunity for me to geek out a little bit and to work on things that I know that they are commercial, because I know that there's a fan base of them. But the people who are making the clothing or the toys or the bedspreads or whatever, they don't know what this thing is. But if I can take them on a journey with me and say, look, this thing has got fans, it's got followers, there are people who like this, and if you make your product with around this property, we can sell it. It will, the fans will respond. If you build it, they will come, as someone once said. And that is certainly true. I mean, I've got Dario Argento. I'd never seen one of his films before I signed him up, and I wasn't sure sustainable at all. This is the master of Italian horror films from the 80s. He's still alive now, but his heyday was really the 80s and the 90s. But I put it out on my website. I put a news bulletin out about it, a press release, and I got people saying, "You've got Dario Argento. I really want to work on Dario Argento. I want to do this. I want to do that." We've got one really big deal away with Killstar, and we've got a couple of other deals coming. And I didn't really anticipate it, but you don't know until you try, I suppose. Is my you've got to dream a little bit, and if you don't try.
That was
Carolyn. I think he's really skirting on Dreamer right now.
I know. I feel like there's a lot of back and forth here.
Yeah, he just described all these scenarios where he had to look past the present into the future and kind of have a vision for something that wasn't quite there yet. And full disclosure, that is exactly what Max did with the Wristworld product. We met Max, the Wristworld team met him at the New York International Toy Fair. And we had this kid-made wristband AR, product, and he was able to see past some of the, deficiencies we had as a team at that time, and see what could possibly happen. And lo and behold, it became a really popular product. And we did the Miku Virtual Expo last year, and it just went bonkers. And I think Max was able to see past what a lot of people would not have been able to see past, and really see a vision for what could happen. I think he's described that for not just us, but for lots of the licenses that he's represented and connected with over the years. So I'm gonna put my mark down for Dreamer with Doer 2, but maybe Dreamer on the high end. I don't know, Carolyn. Well, Max, let's jump back in time for just a minute, okay? A lot of the kids, when we start working with them here, they're going to come in and see us when they're in middle school, and we all know middle school isn't always the high point of people's lives, right? That isn't always the place where you've got it all figured out and you know what you're doing. Usually it's just the opposite. You're at this kind of odd spot in your life trying to transition from elementary to high school and figure out the world and who you are and all of that. So let's go back in time to your middle school years. What was that like for you? And do any stories really stand out for you that were pivotal in those periods of time?
Wow, what age is middle school? Is that like 10 to 15 or something?
Yeah, that's a good number. 10 to 15, somewhere in there.
It was. I coasted a bit at school. I didn't work hard enough. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't really have a plan. And that was, honestly, that was probably the case for me up until the end of my 20s. I'm sorry to say. Well, I'm not sorry to say, because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew what I enjoyed. I knew that I enjoyed music and films and TV and reading comics, and I knew that I enjoyed pop culture. I didn't anticipate that I would be able to monetize that until I got to working at the job I was doing from age 29 to 50 something. Sometimes it doesn't matter what you do as long as you do something. And I didn't really have a plan, I'm sorry to say. And I tried doing lots of things. I had some very odd jobs that I won't go into now in my early 20s. And I just, if you keep active and you throw enough mud at the wall, eventually some of it will stick and something will happen. And there is I think a truth to that follow your dreams. And I think unconsciously I was following my dreams by floundering a little bit and enjoying myself and being into pop culture. And I didn't think that eventually it would lead to something that may enable me to have my own company, to run my own. I've just employed my daughter today, and it's the next step for my company, and it's great, and the company is doing well. And I think there is a truth to that sort of follow your dreams, because you don't know where they will lead you. And if you keep active and you keep doing stuff, you don't know what's going to come out of it. You don't know what's going to you can't say what's going to happen and what's going to come out of it, but something will if you keep going. So
no, yeah.
The answer to your question, because you were talking about middle school, which
no, I think you've nailed it. I actually do. Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense because, Max, I mean, there's a lot of students who are probably very much relate to your past, right? And this idea of like, I don't quite have it all figured out. But I love the idea and sentiment that you just got to keep moving forward. Like, you don't have to have a grand master plan, but you do need to take steps forward. And so it's like, just take the right next step. And it may flounder or whichever, but like, as long as you're moving forward.
And let's be honest, does anyone really have it all figured out?
No, and
no.
I think
but if they, just what you said, if they keep moving forward, they will eventually find their path.
Yeah, I think so. And there's going to be some wrong turns along the way, but being active and keeping doing stuff will lead you to things that you didn't imagine you could get to. And I didn't anticipate my doing. If you don't do anything, nothing's going to happen. That's for sure. But if you do stuff and keep doing stuff, and some of it you might have to do to keep earning money, and some of it you want to do because it's your passion, things can come out of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Max, I know you alluded to it a little bit, and kind of you saw others that were in the industry and you said, if they can do it, then I can do it. But was there maybe a particular event or maybe person that kind of encouraged you to make that step and to start your own company?
Yeah, there were quite a few. I think it was difficult to envisage how it could happen until it happened, until I had to do it. It was a case of, I mean, my departure from my last company wasn't great, and I kind of had to leave. But I don't know. There were a few people doing it. There were a few people doing what I do. I think all of them were doing quite mainstream stuff and are still doing mainstream stuff. And there, there's nothing wrong with that. That's absolutely fine if that makes sense to you. That never made sense to me. I never wanted to do kids properties. I never wanted to do, subconsciously, I always wanted to do weird stuff, niche properties, niche categories. I mean, I'm just about to do a big coffee deal with somebody. There's not many coffee deals out there. I've done a really big confectionery deal on Miku. I don't know. There were people doing it, and I just thought, well, that's great. You can obviously it's achievable because you're doing it, so I can do it. But I don't think I want to do it like you did it. I think if I want to do it, if I'm going to do it, I'm gonna, and that's what I found. The more, not the more niche, the better. But that ability to turn stuff that everybody's a fan of something, and if you can find something that nobody else is doing, and that might mean that it has to be more niche, then fine, that will work. There was a guy actually who I used to work with, and in fact the company is named after him because sadly he passed in 2012. And I live in a place called Meersbrook, and he always used to take the mickey out of me, saying, and he loved words, and wordplay was a very big thing for him. He's a really good friend of mine, Rob Edwards, and I live in Meersbrook, and he used to tease me saying, because he was quite working class, and he'd say, you live in middle class Reims Borco, sort of taking Meersbrook and turning it into this other word, Reims Borco, that he just made up, because it's very sort of hippie, and a lot of teachers and social workers. It's the yogurt weaving belt of Sheffield, if you like, the juggling area of Sheffield, and it's all a bit left wing, and so he would take the mickey out of me, but he was my mentor at my last company, and he died. It's the 10th anniversary this year of his death, and we're a bunch of us who were in licensing in the 90s. We're meeting to celebrate his birthday next month, and the name totally came from him ribbing me about where I lived, because he lived in Nether Edge, was a bit more working class. And so he was definitely an inspiration to me. And we'd formed a record label at one point, me, him, and a couple of others, and it didn't go anywhere. But he would talk about when we do this, when we do that, and we should. So I think subconsciously he would be, along with my dad, somebody that inspired me. And I think unconsciously it was, he left the company and went to work for another company, so I was left there. I guess unconsciously, he never said, Max, you should leave this company and set up your own thing. But it was a sort of a conversation we'd have if we could do this ourselves, sort of thing we would say. And at one point it was the record label that didn't really work out, never mind. But you got to try these things, and if you don't try, you'll never know. And that's in a lot of things in life.
So Max, let's back up for just a second now, and make sure that our listeners understand what we're talking about. You're in the licensing industry. We're not talking about, you don't work at the driver's license place. No. You are actually licensing products. So tell us what that industry is. What do you do?
Okay.
And what do we mean by the licensing industry?
Okay. The simplest way I can describe licensing is, imagine that you have a t-shirt and it says Star Wars on it. Okay. A lot of people can relate to that. Or a mug that says Spider-Man on it, or Doctor Who, or whatever. I'm the guy that sits in between Disney, who own Star Wars, and the people that make the t-shirt. Somebody has to sit in. I mean, Disney actually do it themselves. It's a bad example, but there are a lot of agents out there who represent certain IP, intellectual properties. So Star Wars is an IP, but so is Man United, so are the Beatles. These are all IPs, intellectual properties. And somebody wants to make a t-shirt that says the Beatles on it. Somebody else owns the Beatles, in this case Apple, but Apple need people like me to sit in the middle and represent the Beatles, where they will go and find somebody that makes a t-shirt and put the two together and do a contract between Apple, that own the Beatles, and the people that make the t-shirt. Does that make sense? And it's exactly the same across all IP, no matter whether it's a film or a TV show or, a lot of people do it themselves, but a lot of people can't be bothered and will want an agent to go out and do the work for them. So in the case of Miku, I work for Krypton. They have a US agent, they have a Far East agent, they have a European agent, which is me, an Australian agent, which is also me, and some South American agents. So I sit in the middle between Krypton and the guys that make the chocolate bar.
Or AR wristbands.
Or AR wristbands, yes. And it is my job to find people that make a product that doesn't exist already necessarily in that category and say, look, hey, you want to make a phone cover of Gloomy Bear. Gloomy Bear is a new signing that I've got. It's a very popular, it's like the anti-Hello Kitty, if you like. It's a big pink 7-foot grizzly bear that kills his owner in every episode, and it's huge. He's absolutely massive on apparel. Funko have got a range coming. It's going to be very big. So I'm doing outside America for them. And I was just on the phone with a guy who makes phone covers, and I showed him, and he was like, yeah, we could do this, definitely. And he sells worldwide. I'm already working with him on Dragon Ball and Miku and Bill and Ted. And he likes the look of Gloomy Bear, so we're gonna come up with a plan. We're gonna get a pitch together. I will put that pitch forward to the licensor, and with a bit of luck, we'll have some Gloomy Bear phone covers and laptop case covers soon, and they will sell because the fans want it. And it doesn't exist apart from the bootleg versions. We're going to get rid of them. So licensing is fan service. It's marrying the people that make the products with the people who own the IP, and hopefully coming up with some products that the fans want, so they don't have to buy the bootleg stuff anymore.
Very nice. Yes, that makes sense. You're essentially the connector and hopefully a conduit between the two entities, and so that the chocolate bar people don't seem so crazy when they're like, "Hey, we want to put your character on our bar," or vice versa, right? And so
they can't find it. These two entities, they can't find each other without me. I know what Gloomy Bear is, I know what Hatsune Miku is, and I'm talking to the people that represent it. But also, I know who makes chocolate bars. I know who makes AR wristbands, and I put the two parties together.
Yes.
And
so Max, no pressure here to say Miku or anything referring to a wristband here. But since you do service such a wide variety of kind of characters and genres, what maybe is a personal favorite of yours?
Oh, wow. We did Miku is very good. I don't know. Junji Ito. So Junji Ito, we're just about to do a Junji Ito coloring book. So this is horror. I probably shouldn't show you too much because I'll come up with something that's really horrific. He's like Stephen King. If Stephen King was in Japan, he could draw. So he's like, so he's the master of horror. We've done two things on that I'm very excited about this year. We've done the Junji Ito coloring book that's out at the end of the year, and we've also done a series of Junji Ito perfume oils, and they will be appearing at some point this year. I'm very excited about those two. They're still in development, but should appear sometime this year, and I think they're going to work. I think they're going to work really well. The Gloomy Bear skateboard that hasn't happened yet is going to happen. The Hatsune Miku strawberry soda, which is about to appear. Oh, it's out this week. The Bailey coffee, I'm very excited about that. That's going to be huge. We'll have some product in Vegas to show. There isn't one. There's loads. And when you make a nice product like the Miku rubber duck, which is just fabulous. That's when you see the product and when you see the fans reacting to the product, and you know that it's what the licensee has done is appropriate to the license, because you know that it's appropriate, because the fans like, oh my God, I've got to have that t-shirt of that thing that I really love, or that coloring book of that thing that I'm really into. I can't believe somebody's made a coloring book of it. It's great. I'm going to buy two, one to do and one to keep. When you see that, when you see the reaction of people, that's worth a lot. The excitement of the fans, I do it for money, but I also do it because it's nice to make people happy. And it's nice to see a product in the marketplace that is fan service and it's going to make people excited.
You've sort of answered my next question, but I'll let you sort of expand on it if you'd like. You mentioned that you represent some somewhat elusive, unique, niche kind of characters, and it sounds to me like you do that on purpose. Like, it's not like you just you like those characters. You want to find those niche areas. How do you decide what you're going to represent? What are the criteria you've created for yourself that says, I'm going to do this one, or no, I'm not going to do that one?
Well, I purposefully wouldn't do a kids property because it's too crowded, because I don't know that market, and because everybody else is doing it. But I do have a kids property. I've got Tama and Friends, which is Japanese, and because it's Japanese, it's therefore cool. And it, you get the artwork, and it comes with some Japanese writing. So if you're going to make a T-shirt of Tama and Friends, then it can still have that sort of visual Japanese aesthetic because it's got Japanese writing on it. But how, in general, I mean, I'm trying to get at the moment The Prisoner, because from the 60s, the TV series with Patrick McGoohan is very niche, but I think there's something to do. It's still got a high recognition. His widow Patrick McGoohan's widow is still alive. She's very keen to keep his memory alive, and I'm told that she pretty much approves everything that comes her way. ITV own it, and they've said we're not going to get out of bed for less than X, which is fine. That makes me know that I'm not going to waste time. But I think it's a cool thing. I don't know what I can do with The Prisoner. I mean, it's a TV series from the 60s that ran for a couple of episodes. It's very mysterious, very cult. It's very cool. Is it too old for an escape room? Is it too old for a tabletop game? And that demographic of people in their 50s and 60s and 70s who were watching it when it was out, and it's been on TV since then. I don't know. I think it's not on TV now. It's not very popular. It feels like a bit of a challenge. I think I like the challenge. I think there's some really. He's got like 750,000 followers on Instagram. Yeah, and I think I could do something, and I just thought that's cool. I really like his artwork. I really like the fact that he's got a massive following. He's not doing anything with it. He will give me worldwide, which he did. So I've got much more flexibility. On the niche, on the really, really popular, like Dragon Ball, I've got UK only. I can only do UK, which is very limiting. On Miku, there's a bit more flexibility. But some of these things, like Argento, I've got the world. I can do what I like. I've got worldwide. I've got all categories. I can do anything. On Matt Bailey, I've got worldwide on this, and I can do anything. In fact, the worse the better in some ways. All the stuff that most people wouldn't want to touch, he's like, yeah, let's do that. He's up for it. He's interested. He's excited. So the realms of possibility are broader. But it's, he's never going to be as popular as Dragon Ball. But then Dragon Ball has an agent in France, has an agent in Italy, has an agent in America, has an agent in Australia. The apparel's already done. My hands are pretty much tied on Dragon Ball. I've really got to narrow down and get what they say granular about this. I've really got to drill down on this and find stuff that hasn't been done before, and that's a challenge. So we're doing gym equipment, we're doing gym wear, we're doing a high-end T-shirt deal. We're going to do bathrobes and slippers. We're going to do pajamas. We're going to do all the stuff that. Not a bog standard T-shirt. We have to really think outside the box, and I've got to really think about it and think, well, what can we do here? Because most of it's already done. So that on the big stuff, it's like trying to be really imaginative and think about stuff that's not been done. On the niche stuff, it's more exciting because less people are going to look at it, but the people who do want to do it, like the Argento deal we did, they're really excited about it because it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, there's a lot of fans of this. We will totally do this, and we'll put down the money and we'll do a big deal on this because we're in America. America's a big market. We can find them because we're online, and they will find them. We'll do a good job on this. I know. I guess it's the challenge. I like the challenge of something that is niche. I mean, everything I've got is niche, but some of it is a bit more niche than the rest of it. I don't know. Does that answer?
Yeah. And Max, I like that idea there of going for something that maybe is not conventional, but is challenging. And I think the higher the risk, the more the reward as well. And so I like the way that you approach that.
Yeah, thank you.
So Max, this could be, you can take this in either
creative. Sorry.
Go for it, Brent.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's interesting. You think of the content creator as the creative force for a concept, but really the licensing, the person in the middle that normally in the lay world out here we just think of as a connector person, or they're just connecting things together. But in reality, there's a huge creative ingredient in the work that you do to bring those things to light, and creatively thinking about how to connect those things together in ways that are going to drive the brand and drive the marketplace. And you're really working in a very creative field that I don't think a lot of people think about it that way, but it really is. I mean, you're kind of you're almost as creative as the people that are creating the products themselves.
I don't know about that. No, I do. There's definitely an element of like, well, what can we do? You got to think. I've really got to think about it hard, and I have to. It's that I have to sell it. I have to sell it to the people that make the products, and I have to find the people that make the products that also will have the vision and can realize that actually this thing looks quite small, but the social media following it is quite significant, and the people who are creating it will give it a push on their social media. They will make sure that their followers, they've got 750,000 followers, they will make sure that your product is seen by those people, and they will give you a link to buy from their social media, so that we can drive sales from the fans directly to the people that are making it. Never mind wholesale, it's direct to the consumer, which is more interesting, more beneficial to everybody financially. But I suppose for me, the creative part is thinking about what I can do with a property, thinking about who might want to do it, and then going and finding them and convincing them that they should do it. And it's not always easy. I need to make my case that this thing is big, if they've never heard of it, and if there's nobody else doing it. Because there's that thing about, well, who else is doing it? Well, nobody else is doing it. So it's an opportunity for you because you can be the only one in the market. Well, if nobody else is doing it, how good can it be? Well, you need to find the people that aren't going to be like that, but that can think a bit broader about this and can imagine that this thing that you've got has a bunch of followers, has a lot of fans. And if their product can be connected to the fans and it's good product, it will work and it will sell. And it's all about, making that connection. You were saying, Carolyn, before, it is making the connection between the IP owners and the people that make the products, but it's also doing the same thing between the people who make the products and the fans. That's, if that doesn't happen, it's not going to work. It's not going to, if the fans don't know that this thing is there, how are they going to buy it? How are they going to know that it's there to buy, that it's going to fail? So it's also providing the element of support at that end, so that the people that the people who make it have got these followers, but are they prepared to connect the fans to the people who are making the products? If they will, and if they want to do that, it's going to work much better, particularly on the niche stuff, because the niche stuff you don't expect to find this stuff at retail. You wouldn't look for it at retail. A lot of my stuff, you just wouldn't look for it at retail. I mean, that's changing now with because anime is getting bigger and bigger. But a lot of my stuff, the fans would only ever expect to see this online.
No, that's very. I feel.
But if they don't even know it's online in the first place, how is it going to sell? It's not. So it's about, you're right, it's about connections.
So Max, this next question, this could be a professional take or maybe a personal take, but what's a dream that you're working on right now?
I can't tell you because it's a secret, but there is a very big property that I'm working on. If I say it, it'll jinx it. But there is a very big property I'm working on that I'm going to, that would be, I mean, in terms of a dream property, if I get this, and I hope I will, if I get this, then the fact that I'm losing, and I've already been told I'm losing something at the end of this year, I haven't done anything wrong. It's just that a new boss is coming in, they don't want agents. So I'm losing one thing this year. It's not Miku, Brent, don't worry. I know that I'm going to be losing something this year. That's a shame. But you know, that's life. Nothing's forever, and I have to expect that. I need to be a grown-up about the fact that I'm going to lose stuff, the same way as I'm going to win stuff. But if I do secure this big exciting new property, new to me, it's been around for a while, then it won't matter so much that I'm losing the other thing. In fact, I'll be okay about it, really, because this thing's much bigger and much more exciting, and it will. I can't name it, but it is. That's my current dream. And the other one would be to secure, you know, the other stuff that I'm working on, including Prisoner, including everything else. I guess the other big dream would be to work with webtoons. I hope they're watching this. Webtoon is massive. Webtoon is the future. Never mind. I mean, did you read webtoon comics, Caroline?
I've read a couple. Yes.
Okay.
The Olympus lore, a little bit of. I think that's one of their most popular ones.
Lore Olympus is going to be massive. If I can get that.
Yes. Yeah.
That well, I mean, but Lore is just one of many. If I can, that would be another dream of mine, is to secure webtoon agency work, because they're such an incredible powerhouse. And Sandy, if you're watching this, please consider me. I'm sending you my propaganda soon. So I want to work with those guys, and that will be that. For me, that is a very big part of the future in terms of my industry. And nobody else has not many people have realized that yet, I don't think. So I'm trying to get in there before other people realize. That's a dream. I shouldn't be saying anything about this, because if anybody's watching this, they're just going to sneak in around me, particularly the big agents. So, but yeah, being frank, yes, webtoon.
Those pesky middle school students that'll sneak in around you.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, Max. If we get so clearly from what you've said throughout this whole deal, you have really been your passions, following the things that you find empowering to you and exciting and interesting to you. But these things haven't just fallen in your lap. I mean, they don't just poof out of thin air, and you didn't have to. You had to. It sounds to me in a lot of equity to make these connections and get your own agency started and do all the things that you're doing right now. Talk about that for just a minute. How does the level of work that you've put into your projects correlate with the success that you've seen?
Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes, you know, I've pitched for things and haven't got them, and that's part of it. You know, other people have come in and have beaten me to it, and that's part of it. You have to accept that. You won't win everything. But I guess, you know, knowing people in the first instance, so Bill and Ted and Junji Ito were the first two licenses I secured, and that was, I guess, knowing the people that had those and having a relationship with them and being able to reassure them and show them that I was somebody that had connections and could probably do a good job for them. And, you know, I'd known both of the parties at that point for a few years, good relationships with them. They took a chance on me. Miku, I'd worked for them on the other side of the fence as a licensee, so they knew me and they knew that I'd done work. But you know, a lot of these times you're pitching fresh to people that don't know who you are, have no idea of your past. You know, it's not that they don't care, but you know, they're very busy, and they, you know, I need to dazzle them, and I don't know. I mean, you just have to sort of tread on your past a little bit and say, well, this is what I've done on this. You know, Miku's a good case in point now. I've got 25 licensees across food, apparel, toys, so I've got a case history on Miku that I can point to and say, okay, Hatsune Miku, you know, I've got all these licensees. They're renewing when they come to the end of their deal, so it's working for them because they want to repeat that business. So you can see that it's a success. I can do what I've done with them on your brand, whatever your brand is. So it's a question of it's a question of finding the gatekeeper in the first place. If you can find who to talk to that's prepared to listen, that's a big part of it. And at that point, if I can get to sit down with these people and say, right, this is what I want to do, this is my idea for your brand, and this is why I should be your agent. And in some cases, they're already doing it. They know what licensing is, and they're already doing it, but they never thought of having a licensee for the UK or for Europe or from outside the US. And in some cases, they've never thought about doing licensing before because they've never thought about it. But I can see a reason for doing it. And then I have to explain what licensing is, and wouldn't it be cool if we made some T-shirts and put them into Hot Topic, put them into HMV, and they're like, yeah, it would. Yeah, I'm making T-shirts already. I'm just making them and selling them myself online. It's just me and my girlfriend picking and packing, which is high profit per unit, but they're doing ones and twos, not tens and 20,000s at a time. So you know, and the scale of what I can offer is obviously way bigger. It's all about volume, and I hope to be able to explain that what I can bring is volume. I can put your stuff in retail. Not me personally, the licensees that I work with will put your stuff into retail across multiple categories. And if they get that, and if they want to do that, because not everybody does, then great. And they want to work with me, great. We can work together. And then comes the real hard work of going out and selling their stuff to the right people with the right distribution and the right product. So does that? I'm not sure that answers your question. But, yeah, it's hard. You've got to get in front of people because it's just me and my daughter now. It's a small company. So, you know, and there's a lot of agencies out there, and they're all pretty much all bigger than Dreamers Doers, which is fine, you know. So you know, we are the little company that can, and we will pivot on the interesting and unusual IP that sells. And I just need to convince you that it's going to sell. I just need to convince you that you should take a license. I can do that.
Max, I see the dreamer side in you coming out so much, and you have such a gift for vision and seeing beyond, right? And I think Brent, I mean, you shared that so well.
Thank you.
So Max, we're nearing the end of our interview here, and I get to ask this question more so on behalf of our middle school students, and kind of maybe reflecting even back on that time when you were a middle school student yourself, between those ages of 10 and 15. And if you could go back in time, maybe give yourself a little bit of advice, what would that advice be?
Be interested in stuff. Be interested in people. Ask them about themselves, because that's what they want to talk about. And then, you know, develop relationships with people, talk to people, get to know people, and get to know how to talk to people and how to get on with people. It doesn't have to be all about you. And you know, talk to them, get them to tell you their story first, and then they will want to listen to your story. Calm down. I was a bit of an idiot teenager. Work hard, I suppose. Be interested. I think just be interested in stuff. You know, be interested in the world that's around you, and try and learn about what's going on around you. Because there's a lot happening, and if you blink, if you're not paying attention, you'll miss a lot of stuff. I don't know.
I feel like you just channeled Ferris Bueller there for a second.
I don't know.
If you don't stop to look around every once in a while, you might miss it. Something like that.
Yeah, it's true. That's what he said. It's true. There's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot of interesting stuff. And you know, find what's interesting to you, and get into it and learn about it. You know, and don't worry about if you don't know what you're going to do with your life. That's the same case for so many people. You can't know age 15 what you're going to do with your life. You can't know. And the people who say they know are mostly lying, because they don't know. So, you know, don't worry that you don't know, because you just try. Things will become clearer if you just try and busy yourself, get interested in things, get busy with things. Go for it.
Yes.
Okay, Max. So we have one last thing for you to do on this interview before we'll let you go for today. And this is our kind of our speed round. It's our last 60 seconds. So you're going to have 60 seconds to share with kids that might be watching this that really do want to be a dreamer and a doer and go out and do interesting things and make their imprint on the world. 60 seconds to share with them whatever you think they should know. As we end this interview. So Carolyn's going to start the timer, and you got 60 seconds to share your advice, just final thoughts with the dreamers and doers out there that would be watching today.
Okay, well, I think, you know, I couldn't have done a lot of stuff, I suppose, if I hadn't had any sort of education. So it's important to be able to, I'm not sure diplomas are all that, but certainly having an education is the basis for everything. But having a dream and the ability to think about stuff, to think about what you might want to do, even if you're wrong, and it doesn't matter if you're wrong, even if you're wrong about what you think you want, it kind of doesn't matter, because when you go for something, you will eventually find something. If you just keep going forwards, you will eventually find something. And it won't necessarily be what you think you want at the beginning. You know, if you start down a path thinking this is what I want to do, this is what I want to do, great. You're following your dream. Who knows where that's going to end up? You can be very surprised about where life will take you. And it's not just because you start down one path, it doesn't mean that you're going to totally always end up doing that. I wish I'd done a law degree in some ways. But at the time I thought, how boring would that be? But to do law, I wish I'd done accountancy. But at the time I thought, how boring is accountancy? But it doesn't mean that you're going to have to be a lawyer just looking at a very dry area. You could be a lawyer for the things that are interesting to you. If you're into music, you could be a lawyer that looks after bands. If you're an accountant, you could be you're into films or something. You could be an accountant that looks after film companies. You can, it doesn't matter what you do. If you just go for something that that could be useful to you, you don't know how it's going to end up, and you don't know that if you follow a boring law degree that you won't end up either using that in your job, whatever you end up doing, or making that into something that is actually interesting to you. You know, if I'd gone down the law, I don't think I'd have made it as a lawyer, because it's a lot of work. But I could have been a lawyer, I suppose, if I were more academic. And, you know, I would definitely have used that in my job. I write contracts now, and I would relish the ability to write them better than I do. You don't know what's going to help you, so you just got to try. You don't know where you're going to end up, so you just got to go for it and go forwards. That's not very concise.
It was over a minute, but I won't tell you how much over a minute. It was. But no, thank you. No, that was wonderful. And thank you for encouraging the heart and just being transparent about, your youth and kind of figuring things out. And honestly, and being vulnerable about it, because a lot of people also experience that. And maybe we feel like we have to have it all presentable. And when we, present to kids, like, it's like, oh yes, I had a dream when I was 9 years old and I pursued it. I did no drugs. I got all straight A's and now I'm here, There's this vision of success. But I think it's so much more relevant and real to actually kind of, share, like, here's the struggle, here's the challenges, but here's also how I worked through it. And I think that's where the real advice lies. And I love what you shared even earlier about, be interested in things. And I think there's a real sense of like being a teenager and kind of maybe an expectation that you should be apathetic towards things, or like, oh, you're too cool for these things, or whichever. But I love that sentiment of you should be interested, and in particular, you should be interested in the things that you're actually interested in, even if they're niche, even if there's things that are not mainstream or popular. And in fact, there's even careers out there for that. And you can even make a living out of that. And so, Max, thank you for sharing your story today. It's a testament. It's a testament to, you don't have to have it all figured out, but if you will just take one step at a time, you will get to the next right step. And so I know at the very beginning of this, you're not quite sure if you're a dreamer and a doer, but it really does. It's funny when you talk, it plays out so well. You hear this formation of a dream and it's like, and this is how I did it, or this is how I convince people to do it. And so very much so, Max, you're a dreamer, you're a doer. Thank you for being here today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on, Caroline. Great to meet you. Brent, lovely to see you again. And it was my pleasure. Thank you.
Now, Max, if our viewers wanted to find out more about Reams Burko and some of the licenses that you have, do you have a website or somewhere we could point folks to learn more about you?
We certainly do. reamsborco.com. That's it. Everything is on there. There's not enough bump on there, but there's a contact form. If anybody's interested and they want to learn about anything, you can get in touch with me through the website. There's a contact form. Just send me an email through that form. And if there's anything on the site that is interesting to anybody, feel free to get in touch, and happy to explain.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you,
Max, again for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
That was super fun. Brent, what sticks out to you?
Oh gosh, where to start? I think Max, the whole idea that you can actually chase your dreams, and you may not know exactly where they're going to lead. The dreams could be open-ended a little bit, but they're connected to things that you're interested in and that draw your passion, and just start working on it. And where they lead you may be surprising. It may not be the plan or whatever you thought you were going to do. But I think he's a testament to that, just like you all were talking about, just keeping that idea moving forward. And it starts to form, things start to form around energy, and it creates gravity. And so as you start to build that gravity around the things that you find interesting, stuff starts popping up and opportunities start arising. And as Max showed us today, you just start jumping on those opportunities. And before you know it, you've got your own company.
Yes. No, I really enjoyed it. We actually just shared a lesson with our students about, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, about you can pursue your childhood dreams, and it may not exactly end up being the exact way that you anticipate, but you can satisfy some of those childhood dreams. And so thinking of we actually spotlighted Kevin Carroll, one of our former podcast guests, and how his childhood dream was to be part of the NBA. And probably initially he was thinking that he was going to be dunking. Turns out that he's fairly small, so did not make the cut as far as the height goes, but eventually still pursued his love in sports and his passion for sports, and eventually became one of the first Black athletic trainers in the NBA. And so he was welcome to, he satisfied his childhood dream of being a part of the NBA. And I love just that idea of, like, if you just pursue it, opportunities will come, and it may not be in the exact way that you anticipate and you think, but good things will come for sure. Oh, and then also I have a recommendation. So if you did enjoy this episode, maybe you're kind of in the whole realm of media now, I'm going to recommend episode number 20, and it's Success Through Creativity. So I love just even the creative talk that we got to have today. And that's with our guest, Patrick Fitzgerald. And so Patrick's been with lots of cool different companies, from Disney to Campbell's, and even Thanks. So the real variety, Patrick there.
And just a reminder to visit loveworksleadership.org to learn more about us. Did you know we have a feature on our website that allows you to send us an audio question? Let us know if you need guidance on your leadership journey that you would like us or our guest to answer, and we'll answer it.
Yes. And remember, real leaders, they don't blend in, but they stand out.
Dream big.
And do your dream. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.